Tyler did it again. He made another video that's gonna put a big ass IDF target on his back. Ladies and gentlemen, like one of those things that you say to yourself is that like maybe I'm the worst of the worst, or maybe like there's a good reason as to why people censor the words out of my mouth, or other people, whatever reason they want to give, right? And to that I say, yeah, to be expected. But then when someone who's more popular and more broad and more, let's just say he doesn't have biases, he's not giving people special treatment, then that's when it becomes, an issue, because it's just. So I spoke about this briefly, well, maybe not too briefly. I'm actually not too sure how much I spoke about the dark Jews, the Jews that basically hop on welfare and shit. And it's funny because it's like the actual title of his previous video is New New Jersey addicted Jews or something, or Jews addicted to welfare on New Jersey, or something like that. Uh, and the second one is just like even worse, right? So he goes into this place, right? Same. I know. I think it's like a different one. Um, and like now it's like a different story altogether. Now like everybody's waiting for him. They're having like their phones whipping them out, filming him, like following him around. Some people are just like honking at him and stuff, like calling the cops on him and this and that. And it's just, you can't like deny it anymore. Like the reason why we have this like bullshit like immigration problem is because of the Jewish people, because of their bloodline that created the Muslims. That they feel cheated, almost like it's unfair, and if we're being used like by the Jewish people, like we should be disrespected by default, even though we didn't know about it. We're just like, I'm learning about it just now. And there's like a lot to discuss about this video. It was quite a bit. Like I watched the entire thing. It was rough, man. Like especially the first 20-30 minutes, it was like hype, man. Like they were just going in on him. Like he was just like asking all the hard questions. People were like confronting him. He was like, like talking back and forth. This, ladies and gentlemen, is going to change the world forever as we know it. Because it's one thing to go to like, a poor country and say, oh, hey, look, it's a poop festival. Or, hey, look, this is like, some like bullshit with gangs or some shit like that, right? But this is like an international type shit where like they set up shop pretty much everywhere. And it wouldn't have been an issue, right, if they lived in, cohabitation with the local population. But that's not the case. It's not the case. So I didn't know this a little bit myself too, right? Maybe not as severe, but like I did notice it, right? Where they try to move their peoples in to like, public schools, and then make it so that like living near those public schools is exceedingly expensive, and then a Jewish, family would just like buy up the house for like, 2-3 times as much, right? And then just like hikes the prices. And that's why like one of the reasons why my parents like left the old home and shit. It was just like getting too expensive to live there, right? And then like it gets even worse. It'll go into like bleed into the public schools and shit, where they lose funding for the public schools. And get this, I don't know how they did this, but like there's this guy that Tyler was interviewing at the end that like he's like a confidant for like the Republican Party, and like talks to Donald Trump. He's like a lawyer and shit. He's like the greasiest ass, like inbred ass Jew and shit. You're just like looking at him. His hand is shaking. He knows the fucking jig is up, man. It's like, yo, we had to imbibe the retard for way too long. You know what I mean? Like you can't say the word. You're seen as a bad person for bringing it up. They're fighting for consanguineal marriages in the UK. And like, yo, you want to point the finger at the Muslims, right? Okay. What about the Jews, man? What the fuck about that? Motherfuckers out here calling themselves like the chosen people of God. This and that. You fucking retards. And not only that, you guys got caught. Like I said in like my earlier videos, there were NGOs and like Israeli interest groups that were pushing to get these refugees resettled in these European and subsequently North American countries. And then, by extension, China and Japan, which, just, I mean, beyond the trading partner, they don't really fucking know anything. They're just doing it as like, whatever, goodwill, and like they're learning the hard way. Like, no, this is not the way to live. Like, these aren't human beings. These are subhumans, right? Like, you can't let go of these words. Like, these words that they don't want you to say. It's not racist when it's actually biological act. Like, you could just point to it. You could look at it. You can hear it. You can see it. And like the thing that really like will piss people off about this interview with this guy, Tyler, when he's sitting down with this Jewish lawyer dude, is his reasoning for why he gets these benefits, like exceedingly large amounts of benefits that nobody else gets. No other ethnicity, no other race gets this, to my knowledge. Like, I'm not aware of like a Native American family that could just like sprawl out, have like 20 plus kids. Oh no, they have like 15 to 20 kids, something like that, tops and shit. And then they're like, pretty much unemployed and like, living off of benefits for a long ass time and shit. And they try to bullshit you saying that like, they do this, they do that. No, dog, they're stealing your fucking money. They're taking your taxpayer money. You pay for your kids. Your tax is everything. Like, you'll get a little bit of a kickback here and there, but like, you're not getting like, entire public schools funding of education from a bunch of taxpayers that don't see any of the benefits that solely your kids get and solely your community gets. It is polarizing. Polarizing. This is not going to heal. This is not going to go away. And this is something that, like, I think a lot of ethnicities knew this about the Jewish people. Like, I was a little bit on the naive side because I grew up with them and shit, but I didn't know this about them. And it makes a lot of sense because it's like, whenever we're talking about positions of power and nepotism, right? Like hyper nepotism. Like, sometimes we wonder to ourselves, does it actually have to be something that we need to put aside for our children, as a like opposed to like them being able to compete in the job market like normally? They would like have this position put aside for them to as a safety net, right? And it's one of the reasons why I worry about having a kid, because it's like, obviously I don't want them to like deal with the whole unemployment, you know going place to place with your resume, handing it in, just getting constantly rejected. What that's going to do to your self-esteem and stuff. And like, is it really their fault? And you ask yourself, what does this Epstein guy do? What did he do for like like a job, like what was he really skilled at? The answer was fuck all, nothing. This is the path of the dark Jews. These guys who get your money. Like, so it's three ways, okay? One way is you're getting taxed, and a percentage of that taxpayer money is going to the state of Israel, including Muslims, including mosques. If you're a mosque, you're paying tax. Oh, I'm sorry. You get like a tax free exemption because of religious blah blah blahs, right? But like, and like if you go and you buy like shawarmas or whatever, and you pay taxes on that, it's going to the state of Israel. And then number two is like, you have to like, these anti-Semitic and all these like things that push these refugees into your country, because inevitably it's for the good of the state of Israel to have them live in your country. And then, lastly, you're paying for their what to like spawn their fucking, their retard kids into existence, and they're fucking inbred too. And it's like, you thought the Muslims were bad? Like, check out these guys. Holy fuck! Oh my god, dude! Dude, yo, this is like, and I thought the Muslims had it bad with the whole like Jeffrey Epstein like snatching up your like holy symbol and turning it into like a rug for his like sex parties and shit. Like yo, the Jews they can't walk for this because it's like the entire like I thinking it was something like 1 hour 40 something like that, right? The entire runtime, it was like 50-50. Like some guys were trying to do this PR bullshit, trying to like make it out so like we're not all on welfare, we're not all on benefits, and it's just like yo, we're talking to like the actual like people who work in the stores and shit. But yes, yes they are. And like I'm saying, like this lawyer is just trying to like say like, yo man, we qualify for this shit, man. We qualify. We put it in law. It's legal. We're above board. Yeah, because you put it you lobbied it. You did some like kind of like shisty ass like mafioso style bullshit. Buying up all these properties and shit. What? Spawning out your fucking retard race? Call yourself the chosen people of God when it's all fucking lies, dude. And you created the Muslims. Yeah, now we know why they're like this. Now we know why they get down like this. All the terrorism attacks, like all the random attacks on women, all that shit. It's like, yo, if you were to take money away from Jewish people, I guarantee you the exact same thing would happen, man. We're finally finding out, man. We're finding out. We found out. It's like the find of the century. It's like the most important video of our lives because like say what you want about terrorism. Say what you want about like propaganda, Antifa, you know, like nefarious people like Jeffrey Epstein himself. Well, he's Jewish, but like the idea of like this super class of people that have like all this power over you and it doesn't even come close to these Jews, man. So think about it like this, right? If my father came to this country in like, the 70s and shit, right? Or like, late 80s. I mean, sorry, early 80s. There's probably 2 to 3 generations of children that he's paid for through taxes. And he's not alone, like everybody has. Pretty much everybody has. Like it's almost to a degree where it's unforgivable, where it's like you can't undo it. Like you can't go back and say, "Oh well, we'll give you a refund and like give you your taxes back and like lower your property tax and like buy you a house." You know what I mean? Like buy you a car and all that shit. When you're growing up, you wanted that Super Nintendo and you couldn't afford it. What the fuck, dude? Because you're paying for somebody else's life. Not just one, you're paying for like tons of lives. Their buses, their public schools, their everything. And no matter how much they try to bullshit you and say that like, yeah, we can attain our funding separately from like the public budget, whatever. No, that's a bullshit. That's a lie. They're closing down these public schools. And they're getting like these kids like no education. Kids are like, doing interviews with the cameras. And then like, this is the thing that I think that like, these subhuman people share in common, right? Because it's like, like the depths of humanity to like, the foresight of like, seeing what you're doing as like maybe this is an issue, you shouldn't be doing it. So like in the sense of these guys just filming Tyler as he's trying to like, have a street like level interview with people. And then this random like lady who like went to high school, like public high school, and she's like, yeah, she's talking about like how like they're slowly taking over this and that. And you see this guy, he's just like right there, stopped right there with the window parked down and like honking and doing all these things and just like, making like such a thing where it's like they want you. to keep doing what you're doing, to keep paying for this, to keep, you know, your eyes wide shut, to not speak up about it. Because it's like, do you really want to trade them for the terrorists or the terrorists for them? Like you have to pick one. Like what is this bullshit? And they're both the same. They're both the same bloodline. They're both the same problems. They're both the same ideology coming from the Old Testament. And even though like the New Testament and the followers of Jesus and the gospel will like, you know, say, well, that has relevancy to me and my religion. I think it's more pulling at like the strings of it, where we're all liable for these problems, these links to the past that have no affinity to people outside these religions, like myself specifically. And hey, if you have an affinity for it, that's all good and everything, but you just can't say that like it's fair what's going on. Like the American people haven't just been, you know, getting fleeced by some Somalians in Minnesota or like, you know, some Sikh Punjabi truck drivers. It's the Jews. There's just like a ton of fucking people. There's gonna be like possibly like in the multiple billions of dollars that are coming out that like that should have wound up in the hands of these Americans, and like we're all like wondering why we're so poor all the time, and you know we imbibe the poison of mercy, of pretending that like we're all the same when it's not true. I mean, you know, look deep down inside and like ask yourself, if you knew people lived this way, wouldn't you stop them, even if they were on your side? There's just no way to go on existing. I mean, the shame of it would crush a man, but that's why. That's why, right? Like, that's why you had to say it. Subhuman.